If you've spent months learning cybersecurity and still feel like you forget everything the second you close a course, this video is going to sting a little, because the problem isn't your discipline. It's that you've been learning cybersecurity in a way that guarantees you'll forget it. You've been taught to memorize tools, payloads, and flags like you're cramming for a test. But cybersecurity isn't a test, it's a system. And if you don't build your own system to think with, every course, cert, and lab will fade into the void. I've spent over 15 years in cybersecurity, and for the first 5 years, I kept relearning the same topic. I'd finish a course, forget it, and start over. I thought something was wrong with me, but it wasn't. It was how I was trying to learn. You know the cycle. You finish a cybersecurity course, everything finally clicks, and then 3 weeks later, it's gone. Wait, what does that tool do again? Where did I save this script? You open your terminal, and it's like starting from zero. I used to think that meant that something was wrong with me, my focus, memory, or my brain. But the problem was design. Try to memorize those pieces in isolation, and your brain discards them just as fast. Working memory maxes out at around 7 items, less if you're tired, stressed, or neurodivergent. So the harder you cram, the more your brain does what it is built to do, offload. It's protecting you from overload. If you map recon flow on a whiteboard, is that thinking in your mind or on the wall? If you jot a port number on a sticky note, is that memory or part of it? Cognitive science calls this the extended mind. It's the idea that your brain expands through the tools you use. Pilots use checklists, developers use Google, and architects sketch before they build. They're not weak for doing it, they're augmenting their intelligence. That's what a second brain really is, a personalized framework that mirrors how cybersecurity actually works. Relationally, visually, contextually, so you never lose the thread again. Instead of saving random notes in a notebook, you start linking your ideas together. So the Burp Suite lab becomes a hub tied to OWASP, proxies, tokens, and bypass techniques. One insight could become a network of related concepts. Then, one day you open your vault and it feels like watching your own mind appear on screen. You click Nmap and connections light up to firewall evasion, port scanning, enumeration, and lateral movement. Nothing you learned was ever lost, it just needed a structure that reflects how your brain works, spatial, interconnected, and visual. That's when cybersecurity finally starts to make sense and you stop wasting your time. Every time you post a tip in Slack, every time you drop a command into a Google Doc, and every time you write notes in a bootcamp LMS or a company wiki, that thinking, or your thinking, disappears into someone else's system. You spent hours breaking down workflows, documenting techniques, and refining processes, but in someone else's sandbox. And when you leave that job, burn out, or move on, it's completely gone. All that time, energy, and you walk away with nothing but a blank page. That's the real risk no one talks about, intellectual homelessness. You're doing the work, building the knowledge, but you don't actually own any of it because it lives in systems designed to extract value from you instead of support you. But a second brain flips that. It gives you a permanent, portable vault, which is a system of leveraged knowledge that travels with you across every role, pivot, and phase of your career. Every recon flow you broke down, every note you wrote for your future self, and every failed exploit you annotated and learned from. You can search it, link it, and reuse it. But not just for your own memory, but for your own career leverage. You don't need to finish every project, you just need to capture the thinking that got you there. Because the next time you need it, whether it's for an interview, a client, a course, a talk, or your own entrepreneurship, it's already there waiting for you. So how much of your career have you accidentally built for someone else? And how long are you willing to keep doing that? You've probably been told your brain is a problem to fix. But look again, the person with 10 tabs open while researching is the one who connects weird ideas no one else sees. The one who jumps from concept to concept and deep dives for hours. That person is not broken. That is pattern recognition at work, hyper-focus, system building. If you have the right way to capture it at least. Neurodivergent minds don't collapse under complexity. They thrive in it as long as there's a system to hold the thread. I spent the first 5 years in cybersecurity feeling like I was drowning in the void. I couldn't visualize systems, couldn't see the exploit paths that everyone else seemed to talk about, and I thought it just meant I wasn't cut out for cybersecurity. But I didn't realize that I had autism and aphantasia. So my brain literally doesn't generate mental images, it's just darkness. It wasn't that I wasn't smart, it's that the standard learning model didn't work for my brain. The moment I started externalizing my thinking, mapping it, linking it, and writing it out loud, that all changed. For the first time, I could see how my brain worked, not in my head, but actually on the page. So if you're ADHD, it lets you hyperfixate and then drop it and return to that path without losing context 6 months later. If you're autistic, you build the structure your own way, your categories, your logic, your depth. And if you're aphantasic, graph view becomes your mind's eye. You build your mental models outside of your head. And that unlocks something much bigger. You build faster, retain more, and recover from burnout quicker. You collaborate cleaner, and you finally get to play the long game because the system holds the thread even when you can't. So if your brain was never broken, what happens when you stop working against it and start building with it? You open your notes and see a wall of text, summaries, quotes, commands, all scattered across pages. Some of it is useful, but most of it you barely even remember writing. It looks like a system, but it doesn't feel like one. This is where most people get stuck, not because they didn't write enough, but because they were writing for storage. But you're not here to just store information, you're here to think with it and use it to search. That's the shift. A second brain isn't a digital filing cabinet, it's your lab. It's where you break things down, rework ideas, and then wire them into your actual understanding. It's not just copying and pasting, you rewrite it in your own words. You don't just hoard text walls, you break things down into small linked ideas. And you don't organize into perfect folders. Actually, you avoid folders, but you create networks. And that last part matters. Folders force you to predict how your brain will think in the future. They kill serendipity and hide connections. They break complex topics into silos that don't actually talk to each other. But backlinks and maps surface patterns. They mirror how cybersecurity actually works as a graph of interlinked systems. So when you connect a cross-site scripting note to Burp Suite, to session hijacking, to input sanitization, you're not just storing facts, you're building context and hierarchy. You're creating a mental model of the field that doesn't vanish the second your energy drops. And when that structure clicks, it doesn't just stick, it compounds. Most people think they need the perfect setup, the right app, the right structure, the right moment, but that's the trap. So here's how you get started. Open Obsidian and make a new tester vault. Name it whatever you want because this is your practice version. Do not use folders for organization, just one flat space. Let the structure emerge as you work. So start dropping notes right away. Summarize the tutorial you keep rewatching. Break down the CTF you just did and paste your recon commands. Then explain them like you're teaching yourself. Start linking everything, even if the connection feels kind of thin. Link Burp Suite to OWASP Top 10, to session management, to CSRF. Link Nmap to port scanning, to firewall evasion, to enumeration. These connections are the system. You're not writing for today, but you're building scaffolding for every future version of you. And eventually, you'll start looking back, not to reread your notes, but to build on them. Tested workflows and repeatable patterns that you trust. It turns into your personal playbook or portfolio and your intellectual capital. So what's actually stopping you from opening that first vault right now? You close the course, walk away from the lab, and a week later, it's like none of it happened. That's the part nobody talks about. The burnout loop of forgetting what you already learned. Rewatch the same videos, re-Google the same commands, start it over again and again because nothing stuck. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you could come back to a topic 6 months later and pick up where you left off? You open a note and it links to the exact tool that you need, plus a breakdown of how you used it last time. You see the path that your past self was on, and you're instantly back in the game with more context than you started with. That's what a second brain protects, not productivity, continuity. It gives you a way back into your thinking, no matter how long you've been away. Every idea you've explored, every command you've documented, and every strategy you broke down is still there, still linked, and still yours. So the final question isn't about how to learn more, it's this. Are you done building for everyone else's system and ready to build your own? Because the moment you do, you stop chasing jobs and start creating your future.